Let us chant together Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Tonight, the talk is Sutta Guide to Paths and Fruits. There are two parts to the talk. Tonight, we will discuss how to get stream entry, first path, and first fruit, according to the suttas. Firstly, what is these paths and fruits, in case some of you don't know? In the Anguttara Nikaya, it is mentioned that there are 9 types of individuals in the world. The first is a Putujana, an ordinary person. Then the other 8 are Aryans. First path, first fruit, second path, second fruit, third path, third fruit, and fourth path, fourth fruit. The fourth fruit person is an enlightened being, and there are 3 categories: a Sammasambuddha, a Pacceka Buddha, and an Arahant disciple. So, you have 1 ordinary worldling and 8 types of Aryans. Now, why do we want to attain the paths and the fruits? When we attain the paths and the fruits, we become an Arya. And an Arya is very different from a Putujana, an ordinary worldling. Because the ordinary worldling will go around samsara, the round of rebirths, endlessly. And in that long journey, he will fall into the 3 woeful planes many, many times, uncountable times. We can take rebirth in 5 destinations. 2 are happy destinations of rebirth, heaven and human realm. And 3 are woeful destinations, woeful planes of rebirth. That is the ghost realm, the animal realm, and hell. So samsara is very frightening and very painful because of the 3 woeful planes of rebirth. Even the worst is the hell. Secondly is the animal, and thirdly is the ghost realm. Even the ghost realm is very frightening and painful. As we know, if we have a dream about ghosts, we are very frightened. Imagine if you were in the ghost realm for a long time. So, we don't want to fall into the 3 woeful realms of rebirth. That's why we want to become an Arya. Because once you become an Arya, even the lower stage, the first path, you will never ever be reborn into the 3 woeful planes. In which case, samsara, the round of rebirths, is not so frightening, is not so painful, it's not so much suffering. So, that is why we want to attain the paths and the fruits. Before I go into the details, I like to apologize if in my talk I hurt any learned monks or nuns, because we all have our views and opinions, and sometimes we don't agree. However, I feel we have to explain according to the suttas, the original teachings of the Buddha, because the Buddha wants us to do so. In the Anguttara Nikaya 1.130, the Buddha said, monks, those monks who explain not Dhamma, that means fake Dhamma, as Dhamma, are acting for the harm of many people, the unhappiness of many people, for the ruin, the harm, and the suffering of many devas and humans. These monks generate much demerit and cause this true Dhamma to disappear. And then Anguttara Nikaya 1.140, the Buddha said, monks, those monks who explain not Dhamma as not Dhamma are acting for the welfare of many people, the happiness of many people, for the good, the welfare, and the happiness of many devas and humans. These monks generate much merit and cause this true Dhamma to perpetuate. So from here you can see the Buddha wants us to explain what is not Dhamma or fake Dhamma as not Dhamma. And if we do that, we not only create much merit for ourselves, but we preserve the true Dhamma. On the other hand, those monks who say what is not Dhamma is Dhamma, they bring about the harm of humans and devas, and they generate much demerit, bad karma, and also cause the true Dhamma to disappear. Now, what is the true Dhamma? When the Buddha was about to pass into Nibbana, he said, monks, after I am gone, take the Dhamma and the Vinaya that I have taught to be your teacher. So now that the Buddha is not with us, our true teacher is the Dhamma and the Vinaya. And what is the Dhamma? In the Anguttara Nikaya 4.180, the Buddha said, if any monks or any Sangha or any elder monk says that the Buddha taught such and such, the Buddha said we should not accept it and we should not reject it, but we should compare with the suttas. If it agrees with the suttas and the Vinaya, then you can take it to be the Buddha's words. But if it does not agree with the suttas and the Vinaya, then the Buddha said you can reject it. So it's very clear from this sutta that the true Dhamma is the suttas. The Buddha also said that his Dhamma will last 500 years, meaning that after 500 years it will be polluted. So within that 500 years after the Buddha's passing away, luckily we have Emperor Asoka. Emperor Asoka was a very fervent follower of the Buddha. So he erected on the roads these stone pillars, what we know as Asoka pillars, and on it were carved the words of the Buddha. Now, after such a long time, they have dug up these Asoka pillars, and they confirm that during the Emperor Asoka's time, which is about 250 years after the Buddha's passing away, that at that time there were only 5 Nikayas: the Digha Nikaya, the Majjhima Nikaya, Sangyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, and then the last was the Khuddaka Nikaya. Khuddaka Nikaya means the small collection. Unfortunately, over the years, now it has become the great collection. A lot of books have been added. So only about 6 books are reliable, in the sense that they do not contradict the earlier 4 Nikayas. Even Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi and Ajahn Brahm and Ajahn Thanissaro, all these famous monks, they have to conclude the only real, reliable source of the Buddha's teachings are these 5 Nikayas. Also, There are some monks who, even though they know that these 5 Nikayas are the earliest and reliable source of the Buddha's teaching, they like to refer to other books, later books. They admit it's later books, but they think it's useful to refer to these later books. But there is a sutta in the Digha Nikaya, Sutta number 29, where the Buddha said that his teachings on the holy life are pure, perfect and complete. And the Buddha said, if you think you want to add to his words, you don't see his Dhamma. If you think you want to subtract from his words, you also don't see the Dhamma. In other words, the Buddha is saying that those later monks who write the later books, they don't see the Dhamma. If you don't see the Dhamma, you don't have the eye of the Dhamma, the vision of the Dhamma, the Dhamma Chakku. That means you are not an Arya, you are not even a first path attainer. So from this sutta, the Buddha is trying to tell us his teachings are perfect and complete. Don't look for other teachings. You can look at other teachings just to know, but you cannot rely on them. That's what the Buddha is trying to tell us. Don't rely on any other books except the 5 Nikayas. So the other thing that is a lot of people don't notice is that the Buddha said his teachings are perfect and complete. What does it mean? It means you cannot make it more complete. You cannot make it more perfect. In other words, all other Buddhas, their teachings cannot surpass our Buddha. Our Buddha is one of the most perfect Buddhas. In fact, when the Buddha went to the Brahma heavens and tried and converted the Mahabrahma and the other Brahmas, they were astounded by the Buddha's psychic powers. And Mahabrahma said, he has been in the heavens for so long, he has never seen another ascetic with such great psychic powers as our Buddha, Buddha Gautama. And Venerable Sariputta, the Arahant, the one with the greatest wisdom, also said he believes there is no other Buddha more perfect than our Buddha Gautama. So we must realize there is no other teaching more perfect and complete than our Buddha Gautama. Even later Buddhas to come or past Buddhas, none of them can surpass our Buddha Gautama. At the most, they can only equal our Buddha Gautama. So this is very important. We must appreciate the Dhamma of our Buddha. Now in the suttas, it is said there is only one path to liberation. Of course, later books say things like there's 84,000 Dhamma doors. This contradicts the suttas. And the Noble Eightfold Path is also said to be Sila, Samadhi, Panya. And that is explained as the training in the Adi Sila. The first one, Sila, is training in the Adi Sila. The second one, Samadhi, is the training in the Adi Citta. And the third is the training in the Adi Panya, the higher wisdom. Now, so we want to know how to practice the Noble Eightfold Path to attain the paths and the fruits. This is explained in many suttas throughout the 5 Nikayas. But unfortunately, there is no one sutta that explains completely how to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. So we have to quote many suttas. It's very important to study many suttas because each sutta will explain from one angle. So if you study more suttas, you can see from different angles and understand much better. Now, in the Majjhima Nikaya 117, there's a very important sutta on how to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. We know the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path start with right view, and then right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness or recollection, and right concentration. Now in the Majjhima Nikaya 117, the Buddha said, right view comes first. You must first attain right view to enter the Noble Eightfold Path, the Aryan eight-factored path. There is no other way to enter the Noble Eightfold Path other than right view. And this sutta also says, after you get right view, that will bring you to right thoughts, and right thoughts will bring you to right speech, and then after that, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So the Noble Eightfold Path has to be practiced in that sequence. Now, you can see once you attain right view, how is it you can have right thoughts? If you have right view, then your thoughts will be right thoughts, isn't it? It's quite natural, isn't it? And then once you have right view also and right thoughts, you will have right speech. Because when you want to speak, you have to think first, right? Speech depends on thinking. So you have right thoughts that will bring you to right speech. Also because of your right view and your right thoughts, you will also have right actions. You will not harm other beings, right? And then that will bring you to right livelihood. And then, so these 5 things come as a natural result of right view. And then after you understand the Dhamma, then you want to practice more, then you practice right effort, which is to cultivate wholesome states and get rid of unwholesome states. And then also you practice right mindfulness, and then eventually you right concentration. Now, when you get right view, what happens? There is a sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya 9.20, Velama Sutta. In that sutta, the Buddha said long ago he was a very rich Brahmin, and he did a lot of dana, so much dana, offerings, charity. The Buddha said that it amounted to like 84,000 buckets of gold, 84,000 buckets of silver, 84,000 buckets of precious stones, 84,000 cattle, 84,000 sheep, 84,000 chickens, 84,000 pigs, etc. And the food and the drinks that he gave flowed like the river, so much. But unfortunately, he said, at that alms offering, there was no one worthy of offerings, no one who purified the offering. Even more fruitful than that great alms offering that the Brahmin Velama gave, would it be to feed one person with right view. So the Buddha is saying he fed so many thousands of people, but they are all puthujjana, ordinary worldlings. Even if you have fed one Arya with right view, the merit would have been more. So once you attain right view, you have become an Arya. That means you will never fall into the 3 woeful plains again. And this person with right view is a first path attainer, a stream enterer, and also a Sotapanna. Because once you attain the first path, it automatically turns to fruit a few years later on. But the Buddha said, before the path attainer dies, that path will turn to fruit naturally. So here you can see the condition to attain the first path or the first fruit is only right view. Once you attain right view, you have seen the Dhamma, you have understood the Dhamma, then you have become an Arya. Now there is a sutta in the Satipatthana Samyutta where a monk came to request the Dhamma, some brief Dhamma from the Buddha before he went into seclusion. He wanted to go and stay alone for many years. So he came to ask the Buddha for some brief teaching. And the Buddha wanted to teach him how to meditate. That means practice the 4 Satipatthana. Then the Buddha said, well then, monk, purify the very starting point of wholesome states. And what is the starting point of wholesome states? Virtue or moral conduct that is well purified, and view that is straight. Then monk, when your virtue is well purified and your view is straight, based upon virtue, established upon virtue, you should cultivate the 4 Satipatthana. So in other words, the Buddha is telling him, before you practice the 4 Satipatthana, you should have these 2 foundations. One is Sila, the other one is right view. Because to progress, you need Sila. If a person does not have Sila, he creates bad karma, harms other beings, and he will have remorse. And if a person has remorse, he's not happy. And if he's not happy within, inside, his mind cannot calm down. So he cannot progress in meditation. So Sila is the first foundation. The second one is right view. Right view is very important so that you will be able to progress on your own. If you don't have right view, you are going on the wrong way also, you don't know. You might be following some famous teacher, but the famous teacher may not have right view, but you don't know because you don't study the suttas. Right view, right view is important because some people, after they meditate, they may attain psychic powers. And if they don't have right view, when they get psychic powers, their ego balloons, and they may harm other people. So right view is necessary for many reasons. Now I come to Sutta Majjhima Nikaya 43. In this sutta, it is said there are only 2 conditions to attain right view. Only 2 conditions. One is the voice of another. That means somebody else teaching you the Dhamma. And the second condition is focus, attention when you listen to the Dhamma. When you listen to the Dhamma, you're able to focus on what is being taught. Then only you can understand. If your mind cannot focus, your mind is very scattered. Even you listen to the best Dhamma, you cannot absorb, right? Just like you want to take a photo, your lens must be focused. So only 2 conditions is needed for right view, for to become an Arya. The voice of another teaching you the Dhamma, and then focus, attention. If we practice on our own, however hard you practice, you can never attain right view unless you hear the true Dhamma from a Sammasambuddha. Before the Buddha came into the world, there were many earnest, sincere practitioners in India. They want to get liberation and they are willing to sacrifice their life also. So they go to all kinds of methods of practice, including ascetic practices, what we call khu sing. And like our Buddha himself, our Buddha nearly killed himself practicing all these ascetic practices. But finally he realized. So it was only by recalling the teachings he heard from the Buddha Kassapa. After that only our Buddha became enlightened. So it's very important to hear the true Dhamma, otherwise you can never even become the first path attainer. So just now I said there were so many sincere yogis in India, practice until they attain psychic powers, but you could not find a single Sotapanna, a single first path attainer. But when the Buddha taught the Dhamma, many people understood and entered the stream, attained stream entry. Sometimes there were there was one occasion, 120,000 people. The Buddha preached to them, and the Buddha said all of them attained stream entry. Another time, 80,000 people listened to the Buddha. The Buddha spoke about the Four Noble Truths. All of them attained stream entry. Without the Buddha teaching the Dhamma, they practice on their own. You can never attain. So listening to the true Dhamma is so important. That will bring you to right view. In the Samyutta Nikaya 46.38, that's Bojjhanga Samyutta, it is said, the Buddha said, when monks, a noble disciple, listens to the Dhamma with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing his whole mind to it, on that occasion the 5 hindrances are not present in him. On that occasion the 7 factors of enlightenment go to fulfillment by development. And what are the 5 hindrances that are not present on that occasion? The hindrance of sensual desire, the hindrance of ill will, the hindrance of sloth and torpor, the hindrance of restlessness and worry, the hindrance of doubt. So when we listen to the Dhamma, we must listen with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing the whole mind to it. Then on that occasion, the 5 hindrances are not present. So you see, Yoniso Manasikara is a focused mind. When you listen to the Dhamma, you are totally attentive, totally eager to hear, concentrating your mind. And that because you concentrate your mind, the 5 hindrances are not there. And if you can do that long enough to understand the Dhamma, you will attain right view and hence stream entry. The other thing to notice is that when the Buddha talks about the 5 hindrances, he did not say sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry and doubt. The Buddha said the hindrance of sensual desire, the hindrance of ill will, etc. So it becomes a hindrance. These 5 things become a hindrance when they are strong and they obsess your mind, enslave your mind frequently. Then only they are considered hindrances. Otherwise, even you have them to a small degree, it does not. They do not obsess your mind. They are not considered hindrance. So when you listen to the Dhamma with concentrated mind, on that occasion, the 5 hindrances are not there, and you can understand and get right view. Also, in the Anguttara Nikaya 2.31, it is said that 2 things contribute to knowledge or wisdom or insight. 2 things, not 1 thing. And what are the 2 things? Samatha and Vipassana. You need Samatha and Vipassana, 2 things together that will give you wisdom, give you knowledge, give you insight. So when we listen to the Dhamma with a concentrated mind, focused attention, that is Samatha, when you focus your mind to listen. And then when you listen, you digest the Dhamma, you absorb the Dhamma, that is Vipassana, contemplation. So Vipassana means contemplation, and Samatha means a concentrated mind, training your mind to be concentrated, focused. With these 2 conditions, then you can understand the Dhamma and attain right view. Another sutta is Samyutta Nikaya 55.5. In this sutta, it's a very important sutta. It is stated there are 4 factors for stream entry. They are called Sotapati, Yangani. 4 factors, if you practice 4 conditions, that will lead you to stream entry. And what are these 4 things? First one is association with true men, sappurisa. True men are the men who understand the true Dhamma. The true Dhamma is called Sat Dhamma. The true men are called sappurisa. So true men are those who understand the original suttas of the Buddha and practice in accordance with the original suttas of the Buddha. So you have to associate with such men. Secondly, hearing the true Dhamma, that means hearing the 5 Nikayas that I mentioned. Third is focus attention when you listen. And then the fourth, practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. So just now I mentioned, once you get right view, you will naturally have right thoughts and right speech and right action and right livelihood. Yeah. And then, since you understand the Dhamma, you want to practice more, you will practice the right effort. Meaning you try to get rid of unwholesome states of mind and cultivate wholesome states of mind. Unwholesome states of mind are connected with greed, hatred and delusion, anger and all that. Wholesome states of mind are the opposite. So you will practice right effort and you will also practice right mindfulness. Right mindfulness is connected with right effort. Because to practice right effort, you got to contemplate your mind, you got to contemplate your feelings, and you got to understand Dhamma. And you can contemplate your body also. So these two, the 6th and the 7th factor are related. Right effort and right mindfulness. And this right mindfulness, according to the sutta, is what you need to practice in everyday life. Not when you are meditating, in everyday life. So like in everyday life, like you are working in the office and then anger arises, you get angry with somebody, then you have to notice. You notice that you have strong anger and you need to cut that anger, eliminate that anger. Or sometimes you may have an arrogant feeling, and then also you have to notice. Then you have to cut that also. So sati or vipassana is to be practiced in everyday life. So for a person trying to get first path, these 4 things you have to practice. The last one, practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. Dhamma nu Dhamma patipatti. That is practicing the 7 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. You don't need to practice the 8th, which is the jhanas, to get stream entry. To get stream entry, you need to practice only 7 factors. So, there is another sutta, 55.55. In this sutta, it is said when we talk about stream entry, stream is the Noble Eightfold Path. So you enter the Noble Eightfold Path by right view, and you have entered the stream. You have attained the first path. The other thing this sutta says, this 55.55, the Buddha said, monks, these 4 things when developed and cultivated lead to the realization of the fruit of stream entry. Sotapati pala. What for? The same association with true men, hearing the true Dhamma, focus, attention, and practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. So these 4 factors are very important. Association with true men, those who know the true Dhamma, the 5 Nikayas, hearing the true Dhamma, focus, attention when you listen, and practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. When you practice these 4 things, you attain stream entry. And you keep practicing these 4 things, the path turns to fruit. When your wisdom matures, it bears fruit. So you attain the fruit, and the 3 factors fall away. So these 4 conditions are very important. Now, to attain this, you need certain conditions. In the Digha Nikaya, Sutta 25, it is said that the Buddha said, "But Nigroda, I tell you this, let an intelligent man come to me who is sincere, honest and straightforward, and I will instruct him, I will teach him Dhamma." There are Nigroda, unwholesome states that have not been abandoned, tainted, conducive to rebirth, fearful, productive of painful results in the future, associated with birth, aging and death. It is for the abandonment of these states that I teach Dhamma. So this sutta, the Buddha said, an intelligent person, he will teach one who is sincere, honest and straightforward. Such a person, when he is taught the Dhamma, he can understand, he can progress. And then when he practices the Dhamma, he must get rid of unwholesome states, because these unwholesome states will bring us to woeful planes of rebirth, woeful destinations of rebirth where we suffer. So we have to get rid of these unwholesome states of greed, hatred and delusion, at least reduce them. We can reduce them, and then we can progress. Now another important sutta, Sangyutta Nikaya 25.1. The Buddha said, one who places faith in these teachings and resolves on them is called a faith follower, Saddhanusarin, one who has entered the fixed course of rightness, entered the plane of superior persons, transcended the plane of the worldlings. He is incapable of doing any deed by reason of which he might be reborn in hell, in the animal realm, or in the realm of ghosts. He is incapable of passing away without having realized the fruit of stream entry. And then one for whom these teachings are accepted, thus, after being pondered to a sufficient degree with wisdom, is called a Dhamma Follower, Dhammanusarin, one who has entered the fixed course of rightness, entered the plane of superior persons, transcended the plane of the worldlings. He is incapable of doing any deed, by reason of which he might be reborn in hell, in the animal realm, or in the realm of ghosts. He is incapable of passing away without having realized the fruit of stream entry. So you see here the Buddha is describing 2 classes of first path attainers. One is called the Saddhanusarin, faith follower. The other one is called the Dhammanusarin, Dhamma follower. You see, the faith follower is one who places faith in the teachings and resolves on them. So, in other words, he listens to the Dhamma, and then he has faith. He has faith in these, in the teachings, and resolves on them. That means he practices it. So that means he has listened to the Dhamma and understood the Dhamma. So he has attained right view. So this is. So he has a lot of faith in the Dhamma. This is the first class of first path attainers. The second type of stream enterer is the Dhammanusarin, one for whom these teachings are accepted. Thus, after being pondered to a sufficient degree with wisdom, is called a Dhamma follower. So this second person, he listens to the Dhamma, and because he understands, then he accepts the Dhamma after pondering over it with wisdom. So you see, both of these path attainers, they listen to the Dhamma and they accept the teachings. One has more faith, the other one has more understanding of the Dhamma. So there are two classes of stream enterers. Both also became stream enterers just by listening to the Dhamma. So when when he keeps practicing, and then the wisdom matures and becomes a fruit attainer, the first fruit Sotapanna. So you see from here it's quite clear. Stream entry is only by listening to the Dhamma, understanding and accepting it. Now we come to another sutta. This one is the stock formula for stream entry. This is Anguttara Nikaya 8.12. When the Blessed One knew that Siha's mind was clear, malleable, free from the hindrances, elated and confident, he expounded to him the teaching special to the Buddhas, suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path. Just as a clean cloth with all dirty marks removed would readily absorb dye, so too, while Siha the general sat there, the spotless, immaculate vision of the Dhamma, Dhammachakku, arose in him. All that is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. Then Siha the general saw the Dhamma, attained the Dhamma, understood the Dhamma, fathomed the Dhamma. He crossed beyond doubt, did away with perplexity, gained self-confidence, and became independent of others in the Buddha's teaching. So you see, the Buddha was explaining the Dhamma to Siha, and then just as a clean cloth would absorb dye, so Siha the general understood the Dhamma. He saw the Dhamma, attained the Dhamma, understood the Dhamma, fathomed the Dhamma, crossed beyond doubt, did away with perplexity, gained self-confidence, and became independent of others in the Buddha's teaching. So sometimes some monks, they talk about experiential knowledge. This is the experiential knowledge in the sutta. That is the knowing and seeing. As I mentioned just now, when you listen to the Buddha with concentrated mind, that is the samatha. And because he contemplated what the Buddha was teaching and understood, that is vipassana. Suppose now somebody teaching the Dhamma to you, and he goes like a parrot so fast, can you understand? You can understand. So he needs to speak slowly, and then you listen to his words, and then you are able to digest his words, you are able to understand, you are able to absorb. That is the contemplation, that is the vipassana partner. Then you will understand. So it is because the Dhamma is taught slowly that a person can absorb it. There is another sutta concerning not stream entry, but concerning the Arahant. In this sutta, there were 3 monks, 3 or 4 monks, they were together and they were discussing Dhamma. Then the Venerable Savita said to the Venerable Musila, "Friend Musila, apart from faith, apart from personal preference, apart from oral tradition, apart from reason reflection, apart from acceptance of a view, after pondering it, does the Venerable Musila have personal knowledge thus, with birth as condition, aging and death comes to be," etc. The 12 links of dependent origination. And then Venerable Musila answered, "Friend Savita, apart from faith, apart from personal preference, apart from oral tradition, apart from reason reflection, apart from acceptance of a view after pondering it. I know this, I see this. With birth as condition, aging and death comes to be, etc. The 12 links of dependent origination. So here, this Arahant is saying that he understands the 12 links of dependent origination because he says, I know this, I see this. So it is the understanding that is important. It is the understanding that makes a person a path attainer and a Sotapanna and a second fruit attainer or third path, third fruit, fourth path, fourth fruit. This is again, you see another sutta, the Susima Sutta in Samyutta Nikaya 12.70. Sorry, I just go back to just now that one, 12.68, about verbal Savita and verbal Musila. So the Arahant is saying that he personally knows, he personally sees. So personally knows means that he understands. He understands, so therefore he knows. And then he sees the Dhamma, just like the general Siha. He understood the Dhamma, then he saw the Dhamma, he attained the Dhamma, he fathomed the Dhamma. So this is it is the understanding of the Dhamma that a person becomes an Arya. If you talk about seeing, it's not seeing with the flesh eye. It's not even seeing with the heavenly eye. If you can see with the flesh eye or the heavenly eye, then those yogis before the Buddha's time would have become enlightened, would have become Arya. It is seeing with wisdom. It is not seeing with the special eye. It is seeing with the eye of wisdom. Seeing with the eye of the wisdom is the understanding. In the Majjhima Nikaya 43, it is said that there is the profit of wisdom is three. One is the higher knowledge. Secondly is understanding. And thirdly is letting go, abandoning. So when you attain the wisdom, you get the higher knowledge. Then you understand. And when you understand, you will let go. Sometimes some people, they go for retreat and then they think they have attained Sotapanna and all that. But you see the character is still the same. It cannot be. So it's very important to see exactly what the Buddha said. In the Susima Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 12.70, this Susima was an external ascetic. He came into the Sangha, ordained as a monk, to learn how the Buddha disciples get psychic powers and all that, because the external ascetics, they were not getting so much offerings as the Buddha's disciples. And the Buddha's disciples, people know that these Arahants, they had psychic powers and all that. So this Susima was asked to become a monk to learn all this secret. So after some time, after becoming a monk, he saw a few monks proclaiming that they were Arahants. So he went to them and asked them, Bhante, have you attained the heavenly eye? And they said no. Have you attained the heavenly ear? They said no. Can you read people's mind? They said no. Can you know your past lives? They said no. Can you perform all the various types of psychic powers like diving into the earth, walking through the wall, multiplying your bodies and all that, fly like a bird? They said no. Then he found it very strange. Then he asked them, do you have the arupa jhanas? They said no. Then he thought, how come Arahant don't have psychic powers and don't have arupa jhana? Then he went to ask the Buddha. And then the Buddha told him, Susima, whether you understand or you don't understand, the Buddha said, first comes unshakable knowledge of the Dhamma. Afterwards, knowledge of Nibbana. This unshakable knowledge of the Dhamma is stream entry. Once you understand the Dhamma, you have unshakable knowledge of the Dhamma. And then later, you will have knowledge of Nibbana. Knowledge of Nibbana is the Arahant. And Arahant, when he becomes enlightened, he attains Nibbana. So, it is the unshakable knowledge of the Dhamma that leads you to become an Arya. Unshakable knowledge of the Dhamma is the understanding of the Dhamma. Now, there's an important sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 55.40. The Buddha said, Nandya, I say that one in whom the four factors for stream entry, just now I mentioned the Sotapati Yangani, are completely and totally absent, is an outsider, Bahiro, one who stands in the faction of worldlings. So the Buddha says, if you don't have these four factors of stream entry, Sotapati Yangani, you are an outsider, meaning you are not a Buddhist. You are actually an external sect follower. You think you are a Buddhist, but you are not a Buddhist. So it's very important, if you are really a Buddhist, you must have these four things. Association with true men, hearing the true Dhamma, focus attention, and practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. So you please ask yourself, are you really a Buddhist or not? Okay, Majjhima Nikaya 48. I forgot the name of the sutta. In this sutta, it is mentioned that there are 7 characteristics of a Sotapanna. One is the 5 hindrances do not obsess or overwhelm his mind. 2, he can obtain internal serenity or stillness. 3, there is no other, he understands there is no other recluse outside who possesses the right view that he possesses. 4, if he commits any offense, he immediately discloses it. Number 5, although he is busy, he has a keen interest to cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. 6, when the Dhamma Vinaya is taught, he pays full attention. 7, when Dhamma Vinaya is taught, he is inspired and gladdened. So the first one, the 5 hindrances do not obsess or overwhelm his mind. There are some people, the 5 hindrances are very strong. Sometimes you see in the newspaper an old man rape the granddaughter. The sensual desire is so great, it overwhelms his mind. So a person who does not have the 5 hindrances overwhelming him is a person who is intelligent. Just now I mentioned, the Buddha said, let an intelligent man come to me. I will teach him the Dhamma. So this is the first condition. Secondly, he can obtain internal serenity of mind. At least for a short while, when he listens to the Dhamma, he can still his mind, concentrate his mind long enough to understand. But there are some people, if the mind is too scattered, they cannot even do this. The third one, he knows there is no external ascetic who possesses the right view, like a Buddhist. Number 4, if he commits any offense, he discloses it. He does not hide. And Arya is a very straightforward person. He does not hide anything. Then number 5, although he may be very busy, but if he can find the time, he will always want to cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. And then number 6, when the Dhamma Vinaya is taught, he pays full attention, very eager to hear. And then number 7, when the Dhamma Vinaya is taught, he is inspired and gladdened. He's very happy to hear the Dhamma and the Vinaya. So if a person is not interested to hear the suttas, it's not possible that he is Arya at all. So this is Kosambya Sutta, I think. Now, just now I mentioned that in the suttas in the Vinaya, there were a few instances where thousands of people came to listen to the Buddha, and the Buddha said they attained stream entry. There's another Sarakani Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 55.24, where Sakyan, he passed away, and then they came to ask the Buddha, where is Sarakani reborn? And the Buddha said that he is a Sotapanna, gone for a good rebirth. And some people got very angry when they heard this, because they said Sarakani was a drinker. He used to drink liquor. So they said he can't even keep the 5 precepts. How can he be a Sotapanna? They did not believe the Buddha. Then the Buddha said, Sarakani has taken refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha for a long time, meaning has listened to the Dhamma for a long time. Why should he not become a Sotapanna? The Buddha said, look at the trees. Even these trees, if I were to teach them the Dhamma and they can understand, I would say they have become Sotapanna. So from this you can see the Buddha is saying that if you can understand his words, you can become a Sotapanna. So it is understanding the Dhamma that makes you an Arya. Another case in the Vinaya books, Devadatta, one of the Buddha's disciples, he wanted to lead the Sangha and the Buddha refused. So he got very angry with the Buddha. He wanted to kill the Buddha. And then he asked the prince, Ajatasattu, to give him some men. And then he asked the first men to go to where the Buddha was and kill the Buddha and come back by a certain road. Then after this man had gone, he asked 2 men to wait for this man. When he comes back, kill him and come back by another road. Then he asked 4 men to kill the 2, asked 8 men to kill the 4, and asked 16 to kill the 8. So that it will be hard to trace who gave the orders. So the first man went, and then when he came to the Buddha, he saw the Buddha was waiting for him. And then he thought the Buddha must know what he's up to. So he threw away his weapon and confessed to the Buddha. And then the Buddha said, never mind, you sit here, I will teach you the Dhamma. And the Buddha taught the Dhamma to him, then he attained stream entry. Then the Buddha said, you don't go back by that road, 2 men are waiting to kill you. So he went off by another way. And the 2 men waited for so long, they could not wait, and then they came to the Buddha. Again, they saw the Buddha staring at them, so they also guilty conscience, threw away the weapons and confessed to the Buddha. The Buddha said, you sit down, I teach you the Dhamma. They also attained stream entry. 4 men came also attained stream entry. 8 men also attained. 16 also attained. You see, such people can attain stream entry. I think you are better than them, isn't it? So, you see from the suttas, it is by understanding the Dhamma that we attain stream entry. So now just to recap, firstly the true Dhamma is the 5 Nikayas, the early 5 Nikayas. This is beyond argument already. You go to the Wikipedia and all that, you can find. And then there's only one path to liberation, the Noble Eightfold Path. And you have to practice in that sequence, right view first. You must get right view, and then only you enter the Noble Eightfold Path. And then the Velama Sutta confirms that once you attain right view, you are an Arya. And then Majjhima Nikaya 43 says there are 2 conditions only for right view. The voice of another teaching you the Dhamma, and secondly, focus attention when you listen to the Dhamma. And then Samyutta Nikaya 46.38, when you listen to the Dhamma with eager ears, directing the whole mind to it, on that occasion the 5 hindrances are not present, in which case you can understand and attain stream entry. And then Samyutta Nikaya 55.5, there are 4 factors for stream entry. Sotapati Yangani. 1, association with true men. 2, hearing the true Dhamma. 3, focus attention. 4, practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. And then a person who can understand the Dhamma must be an intelligent person, sincere, honest and straightforward. And then there are two, in Samyutta Nikaya 25.1, there are two types of stream entry. One is Sadhanusarin and the other one is Dhammanusarin. One has faith after listening to the Dhamma. The other one, he understands the Dhamma, Dhammanusarin. And then Samyutta Nikaya 55.40, the Buddha said, Nandya, I say that one in whom the four factors for stream entry are completely and totally absent is an outsider, one who stands in the faction of worldlings. Okay, I think I stop here and allow you to ask questions. Next week we'll discuss the higher stages of Aryahood.
All right. Are there any questions from anyone? I'm sure Venerable Sir will be delighted to answer your questions or clarify your doubts. Feel free to put up your hands and I'll bring the mic to you. Maybe I should start off by asking Venerable Sir. Listening to your Dhamma talk, truly inspired. Now, just want a general curiosity. If we are Buddhists, we could understand and follow the path. What about other followers of other faiths? For instance, like a Christian, a Muslim, a Sikh. Would it be possible for them to become an Arya?
Oh yes. If they are intelligent and they listen to enough suttas, they can. During the Buddha's time, external ascetics, in the same situation, they came to listen and they got converted. Even our Buddha himself, in his previous life, when the Buddha Kassapa was around, his friend tried to persuade him to go and meet the Buddha Kassapa. At that time, he was a Brahmin called Jotipala. This is mentioned in the Gatikara Sutta. He refused to go and see the Buddha. So his friend had to pull him, then only he went. And then after he listened just to one Dhamma talk by the Buddha Kassapa, he decided to renounce, become a monk. That shows he had already attained stream entry. If a Bodhisattva cannot attain stream entry, who can attain stream entry? Unfortunately, nowadays people say the Bodhisattva is not an Arya.
All okay? All clear? Okay, there's one at the back. Please, yeah.
Reverend, I want to ask, what is the general definition for the stream entry? And question number 2 is that, why is the term stream used in this connotation?
Stream is used because you have entered the stream of the Aryans. Once you have attained stream entry, you will flow to Nibbana. You will not go anywhere else. You will follow the stream to Nibbana, the most in 7 lifetimes time. You say definition of stream entry. The Buddha said, while Siha the general sat there, the spotless, immaculate vision of the Dhamma arose in him. All that is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. Then Siha the general saw the Dhamma, attained the Dhamma, understood the Dhamma, fathomed the Dhamma, crossed beyond doubt, did away with perplexity, gained self-confidence, and became independent of others in the Buddha's teaching. That is the definition. So there is basically the understanding that all that is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. This means you understand impermanence. When you understand impermanence, you know that life is not secure. Don't think now that you are very happy having living the Malaysian dream, that you will continue to live the Malaysian dream. Anytime the bubble will burst. Anytime a doctor may tell you one day you have cancer, then you are so worried. So, when the doctor tells you that you have cancer, then you really see impermanence, yeah? Then when you see impermanence, you naturally see suffering, yeah? You will experience suffering. So,